What did pain take away from you? I remember just experiencing such horrible knee pain. It was really a low point in my life. It's so interesting. Even a color can have an influence on how much pain we experience. In fact, every thought is actually a nerve impulse. And how important the context you are in, how important it is in determining whether your brain perceives the need to protect itself or not. How fascinating is that? If so many things influence pain, we have so many ways to change it. That's just food for thought for you. It's going to take a little bit of courage. You might have a little bit of fear, but movement is one of the most amazing things you can do for your brain, and it's one of the most amazing things you can actually do for your pain. Yes, that's better. So I thought I'd take you here because this is a spot that I used to frequently come to when I was really struggling with chronic pain. I remember a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, I was struggling so much with my knee pain, and I just felt completely lost. And I remember coming and walking around Kirstenbosch Gardens, and it was definitely a safe space for me to be and just to reflect. This is in South Africa, where I'm from. So if you look up there, that's Table Mountain. So it's a really iconic, special place to be, and really, really peaceful here. There's some beautiful oak trees and not a lot of people here during the week. So just a wonderful place to be. So I'm taking you here for a couple of reasons. I know in the last video, we spoke a little bit about context in pain and how important the context you are in, how important it is in determining whether your brain perceives the need to protect itself or not. So context is not everything, and I'm sure you've been in a place that you love and you've still felt a lot of pain, but context is certainly one factor or one valuable piece of information that your brain draws upon before it decides whether or not to produce a pain response or not. There was a really interesting article that I was reading recently just about the valuable role of context. This was a research article that was done in 2009, and basically it was a bunch of pain scientists. And what they did is they wanted to see the impact of color on people's perceptions of pain. So what they would do is they would give the participants a pain stimulus. So it might be like a cold water immersion or a small pinprick or something. But before they administered the pain stimulus, what they did was they showed the participants a certain color of light. So it might have been a blue light or a red light or a green light or any different color light. And what they found, interestingly, was that when the participants saw a red light directly before the pain stimulus, they reported a statistically significantly higher perceived or subjective pain rating, which is so interesting. I just find it so fascinating how even a color can have an influence on how much pain we experience. So the people who saw the red light, when they saw the red light, they had more pain than when they saw the blue light. So that's just food for thought for you. And I hope you can just think about the role of context in your pain experience. I know I gave you the example of somebody on the highway. They could be running across a highway and step on a nail but not feel it, because the context is so much other things going on that the brain doesn't really need to produce pain, because it's prioritizing looking after the human as a whole organism. But if you're stepping in your kitchen in the middle of the night and step on a nail, it's going to be a different experience. So likewise, think about the things, the context that aggravate your pain and the context that relieve it. It's a valuable piece of information that your brain draws upon before it decides whether or not to produce a pain response. There's so many things that your brain draws upon before it decides whether or not to produce pain. It could be the things you think. I know we've spoken about how important thoughts are. In fact, every thought is actually a nerve impulse. It's a nerve impulse with the same importance and the same strength as an impulse coming in from the tissues. So our thoughts, the places we go, the people we see, the things we think and believe, all these things are so important in determining whether or not our brains perceive that we need to be protected or not. How fascinating is that? That's absolutely incredible, isn't it? And I hope it engenders a lot of hope in your life, because if so many things influence pain, we have so many ways to change it. So I thought that this was a meaningful spot to take you guys to, because I remember just experiencing such horrible knee pain when I would come here in the past, and it was really a low point in my life. And I would come here quite often just to reflect. But the other reason I brought you here is to explain to you the importance of movement, how important movement is in retraining your brain and retraining your brain's response to pain. So movement, I'm sure as you've had pain, whatever you used to love in life, whether it be maybe running, or it doesn't even have to be running, it can be something like gardening or holding your children or going for a walk with your friends. I know what pain's done to you. It's slowly made you stop doing those things, and it's slowly made you withdraw because you are afraid that if you move, it's going to make your pain worse, and very often it does. But movement is also so valuable, and when you realize that, especially in the case of chronic pain, that pain is not always an adequate indicator of tissue damage, you can learn and you can begin to explore new ways of moving and new ways of being in this world. And movement is one of the most amazing things you can do for your brain, and it's one of the most amazing things you can actually do for your pain. When you move, you lubricate all of your joints, you nourish brain cells deep within your body, you strengthen all that beautiful cartilage around your joints and your knees and your back. You get the blood flowing, you flush out acid, and you really go and get your body tissues just growing so nice and strong. And it's really good for your pain as well. It just releases so many endorphins and really, really good chemicals. Now, I know what happens. Often when you try to do these things, your pain probably gets worse. And it's a tricky thing because your brain's really learned how to be protective for a long, long, long time. So even a small movement could likely bring you into pain. But here's where you've got to be really smart. You've got to go and look at all of the things that are having an impact on your pain. Is it the people, certain people in your life? Is it a certain context? Is it a certain belief system or sets of cognitions? And if you can look at those things with the perspective of a really curious detective and challenge some of those things, at the same time, you can get some courage and some bravery and try to implement movement into your life, whether it's gardening or picking up your children or going to the shop and doing the groceries or getting out of bed, whatever it is. I encourage you to get up and implement that type of movement, even if it's in a very small way. And what you're doing is you are pushing yourself not to the point of a flare-up or where you are in a lot more pain, but what you're doing is you're gradually telling your brain, hey brain, I love you, I know you're trying to protect me, but movement is actually not bad for me. So it's going to take a little bit of courage, and you might have a little bit of fear, but what you eventually want to do is to train your brain that this movement is not only safe, but it's actually really, really good for you. It's something that really nourishes you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to train our brain of new ways of being. And in the case of an acute injury, if you've fallen off a horse or you've had a car accident a week ago, I certainly wouldn't recommend movement. But as I'm sure you are very similar to me, if you are in a state of chronic pain and you've had it for a long period of time, the likelihood is that there are many more psychological and social factors at play rather than just biological factors. So let's get out there and let's be a little bit courageous, and let's be brave. And I'm certainly not telling you to go and run a marathon, but think about the things you used to do. What did pain take away from you? What were those special things that you used to do, and how can you implement those back in your life in just a small way? It's going to take some courage, and you're going to have to be brave. But I know that you can do it. I know that we can all do it. And if you have any troubles or questions, you can get through to me. But I'd be interested to know, and please put it in the comments, what did pain stop you from doing, and what do you gradually want to be able to do again? Is it holding your grandkids? Is it going for a walk? What exactly is it? Please leave those in the comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all over again. I'm here at Kirstenbosch Gardens, like I said, and I remember when my knee was so sore and I was going through my recovery process, I wouldn't push my knee, I wouldn't go for a run in Kirstenbosch Gardens, but I would walk and I'd experience pain, but I would still walk. And the key thing here is to respect pain. It's a great protector, and you don't want to make it angry because you can have a flare up, and it can certainly be significantly worse. you can respect pain and you can understand pain, but you shouldn't fear pain, especially if you take it slowly. And it's all about graded exercise, exposure, and gradually training your brain. So in my case, it was addressing the various psychological components, and it was teaching my brain that, hey brain, it's totally safe to walk in Kirstenbosch Gardens. I know you're a little bit sore, but you're sore but safe. Hurt doesn't equal harm. And this movement is so good for you. It's so nourishing. Motion is lotion and movement is medicine. And I'm a beautiful, bioplastic, adaptable being. And I can change the way my brain perceives the situation. So I know it's a tough journey, but I can promise you, you certainly aren't alone. I know anyone who's watching this is likely going through a really difficult battle. But I know we can certainly do this together. And I'm very eager to see your thoughts in the comments and see what activities you would like to get back into doing in your life. I'm going to continue walking around this special place and reflecting on where I've been and where I'm going to. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to checking in soon. Cheers.